Hi, I'm John Krieger. Welcome. How often do you take the time just to stop? One of the things that I'm hearing from some of my coaching clients is they're finding difficulty today finding balance in their lives. And so, what I'd like to do is talk to you about that today and just share some ideas that I share with them in regards to finding that life balance. So, let's think about the environment today. Think about the stress that we're under, and is there any let up in it? Is there any time when you don't feel it? A lot of people tell me no, that they're constantly stressed. So we got to look at that and think about what's that doing to us. Number one, you've got neurotransmitters, these chemicals that are released into the brain when you have constant stress. Stress causes us to be in some level of fight or flight, which is, again, we can be full out into it, or we could have it marginally. But when we get into that fight or flight, we're constantly paying attention to what's going on around us. We're either running toward it to attack it, we're running away from it to try to get away from it. It causes us to freeze. I mean, how many people do you know that just feel immobilized? So it's important to think about what's this do to us. It increases your heart rate, your blood pressure goes up. You find your immune system borrowing the resources that it has when realistically those resources should be there in an emergency. But because you're high level of stress over an extended period, what's happening is you're using that up now when you may need it later. So we have to think about the impact of that on us over the long term. It can destroy some of the nerve cells in what's called the hippocampus in the center part of the brain here. And it's an area of the brain that's responsible for emotions and memory, autonomic nervous system, your responses to things. And so we have to think about what's the implications of this. Also, what's necessary for us is to recognize that the brain begins to overgeneralize. So some of those things that you are normally paying attention to and noticing all the details and all that, guess what happens? If we're in this high state of stress very often, we find our brains begin to overgeneralize. In other words, we kind of take a quick look at it, or we think we have it, and guess what? We don't. We don't have the details. How often have you found yourself in a situation where someone asks you a question about something that happens and you think back on it and you can't recall all the details of it like you used to? Well, that's because, again, very often we're in this fight or flight response on an ongoing basis. And how many of us feel like we have a lack of control of our environments? You can't watch the news. You may shut it off and don't have any tolerance for listening to it, or you listen to it all the time because you don't want to miss anything and you need to know what's going on constantly. You find people are very quick to kind of cut you off, or maybe you cut other people off. Driving is horrible today. How many people are impatient when they drive, cutting people off? Like I said before I was talking verbally, but now I'm talking physically. Our brains deal with discomfort in lots of different ways because those circumstances make us uncomfortable. So our brains deal with discomfort by seeking distraction. They look for a way out. They're looking for some way to not have to deal with it. And very often, what we do is we rely on our phones or our technology to get in our way. As soon as something happens, what do? We got a few moments when nothing's going on. We immediately pull out our phones. We look at these. We pay attention to it. Whoop, keeps disappearing on me. But we grab these things with the idea that they are going to keep us entertained. They're going to keep us focused on something other than. Well, this is causing a lot of different problems for us. And I would like you to take a look at some of these problems. But let me look at a solution before we even go into it. The reality is, how many of you check your phone every day throughout the day? Most people do. In fact, the average employee checks their phone somewhere between 77 and 100 times per day based on current research. So we have to look at that and think, what's that doing to us? More and more research is coming out on this, showing that it's causing anxiety. It's giving us a tendency to be intolerant of other people, of anything that takes any time at all. We have to have it, and we have to have it now. And we tend to be distracted constantly. Whenever our phones are around us, we're constantly distracted. When I'm working with clients or when I want parents to pay attention to their kids, what I advise them to do is take your phone, put it somewhere where you're not really seeing it. So put it over across the room on the kitchen shelf or wherever you happen to be. Put it away someplace, maybe just behind you where you're not seeing it. And it's not as distractible. What can we do to reduce and those things that we can that are causing us problems? This is just one study. It's out of Rutgers University, but it's about cell phone distraction in classrooms. And the interesting thing is there's a number of schools around the world, or a number of countries that are actually passing laws now that phones can't be used in schools, that they're limiting the age where kids can go online and actually access social media sites. But what they are finding is that when phones are not present in the classroom, kids do better. When their phones are not present when they're studying, they do better. Guess what? Employees who don't have their cell phones right there with them all the time do better. They're able to pay attention longer. They can focus better. They're not as distracted or distractible. So we have to think about what's the implications. Back several years ago, I wrote a little book on organizations, and it's called The Pond, a situation where there's this pond, and these beavers come along, and they decide they like it so much they want to dam it up. So what they do is they dam it up, and then what happens is it starts to degrade. It starts to lose the amount of oxygen in there. Water's not coming in, not keeping that flow open. We're not letting go of things like the old water in the pond, and there's not new water coming in that allows it to be refreshed on a regular basis. So this is a little quote from my book. Miracles often happen in the silence of the mind that others sometimes call nothing. In nothing, things happen. And today what we're not doing is we're not allowing ourselves the benefit of allowing ourselves just to experience nothing periodically. All of us have the same amount of time. You may not accomplish everything you want to in the time that you have, but that's not such a bad thing. We just have to recognize the fact that we have to be realistic about what we have to work with. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I would like you just to join me for a few moments, and we're going to do a bit of a breathing exercise here. And I would like you to just try this with me. Have you ever thought about the idea that you go from one meeting to the next, or you come rushing home from work and now you got to deal with the kids, and you're still working in your mind, you're still working on things that you were thinking about when you left them, and now you're in the new circumstance. So you're actually bringing a lot of that with you into that new situation. So how much are you present in that new situation? A lot of times we're not. So what I'm going to ask you to do here is we're going to just do 3 breaths. The way we're going to do this is we're going to take an in-breath to about a count of 4. We're going to hold it for about count of 2, and then we're going to let it go to a count of about 10. Now, if you can't make it to 10, don't worry about it. Just try it with me. All right, here we go. You ready? Now, neurologically, what you've just done is you've told your body to slow down. What this does for you is it helps you to transition from where you were to where you're going to be by taking a few minutes in between as a buffer between those two events. Now, as that buffer between those two events, what it now allows you to do is be present where you are instead of, again, carrying all that stuff with you. And taking that couple, that couple minutes in between, like you're rushing home from work, you stop in the driveway before you go in the house, you do the 3 breaths, and then you go in. Or you go from one meeting to another. You stop at the restroom in between, go into a stall, just do the breathing for a couple of minutes, step out, go to your meeting, and you're more present in the meeting. So think about the benefit of that. What will that do for you? I hope this has been beneficial for you. I really thank you for being here and thank you for watching this. If you're so inclined, please like this video. You can do that down below. I would say to you, if you want to, if I can help you further at all, whatever it may be, please get back to me. Here's my email address. And I would also say you can follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and where you're probably watching this on YouTube. I hope that this has been beneficial for you. I've enjoyed doing it and just enjoy the feedback that I get from you guys. All right, you take care and be well. Bye-bye.